one. Indian Fever. You can be part of the fun. You're the winner at every game. That's where the excitement begins. So catch Indian Fever. Be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November 13th, 2018 Lake County Sentinel Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Shirer, and welcome. It's a half-hour show tonight. We're going to do a little bit of sports, and then we're going to probably spend 10 minutes on sports tonight, and then we'll spend maybe 20 on politics, simply because we spent the entire hour last night on sports when we had Philip Goff as our guest. A great show last night. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about Monsters hockey. Philip filled us in on a lot of things that go on in minor league hockey, and the chain of how you get to be an NHL player, and if there's some guys on the Monsters who have a future in the NHL, and I think he said there are several, and that's a really good sign for the Monsters, because they have good players, and then it's also a good sign for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're the affiliate. One of the Columbus players who's currently back on the Monsters, who played on the Monsters in 2016, Sonny Milano, is back with the team. I did not know that until Philip told me that last night. But it was a really good show last night with Philip, and I was really glad that he came on. And, I've known Philip for a while now, and he's a really good young man with a real bright future. He's following in his grandpa's footsteps, working as an equipment person for the Monsters, as his grandfather did for 60 years. And it's a great family. So, but let's get to some stuff here. We have in sports, we have the Cavs are playing tonight at 7:00 against the Charlotte Hornets. They have so many injuries. Kyle Korver will not play tonight. Jetty Osmond will not play tonight. Kevin Love has been out injured. There's just so many injuries for this team right now that they're young as it is. So this makes it even harder when you have so many players out. Decker's also injured, and he's out for 2 to 4 weeks. So it's tough right now for the Cavs. Stick with them. Support the team. If you're going to support a football team that wins one game in 2 years, you should support a basketball team that brought you a championship just 2 years ago. Okay, let's be real about that. You didn't really support the Indians very well a lot of years. Support the Cavs when they're down. They won a championship for you. And like I said, you supported the Browns through a bad stretch. The attendance was down. I agree. And hey, it should have been. And the attendance will be down at the Q, and it should be until they win, or start winning. Then it'll go back up. But support them by watching them on TV. Don't give up on them. Don't make horrible jokes about them. That's not right. I was never one of the people that enjoyed when I saw people making horrible jokes about the Browns when they were going through the bad 2-year stretch. It's not nice. Look, when you're down, you're down. You don't need to be kicked when you're down. And that's what, I feel like a lot of people do. They enjoy kicking people when they're down and kicking franchises when they're down. And the Cavs are down right now. But that's just how it is. And they'll get it together. They will probably have a high lottery pick this year and maybe get one of the 3 Duke basketball players that are very good. So that'll be a really, that's a positive. You got to look for the positives. And I think with the Cavs, it's a rebuilding time. and it has to be done. So you might as well support them and hope for the best. By the way, I think I'm one of the few people in Cleveland that really like the throwback, the city jerseys tonight. I really like them. I like the bright orange and blue. I like that when that was the Cavs colors. I never knew that the logo was a wave. Uh, the power of Lake Erie. I never knew that until recently, but I like that now. Now that I know that, I like the idea of it. Yeah, it's maybe not the most exciting logo in sports, but it's pretty good. I like it. So hopefully they can win tonight. They have a new court tonight that they'll be playing on, and I guess it's only for these nights. Excuse me. So hopefully they'll get a win tonight. But then we have a little bit of baseball news to take care of here. Managers of the year were announced today, and we got Brian Snitker of the Atlanta Braves is the National League Manager of the Year. Absolutely. Runaway. I think Craig Counsell probably got some votes for Milwaukee, but Snitker, he was definitely the guy. I mean, the Braves weren't expected to be anything. They probably were expected to finish in fourth or fifth place in their division, and they won the division. You know, they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Okay, but for them, winning the division was a big deal, considering they weren't supposed to compete this year. But they did, and that's a great job by him. And then in the American League, Bob Melvin for the Oakland A's won. I thought my vote would have gone for Kevin Cash, Tampa Bay of the Rays, because I thought with what he did with his pitching in that division, I thought that he deserved it, but I had have no problem with Bob Melvin either. The A's were somewhat like the Braves. They weren't expected to be a contender this year, and they got a wild card. Crap, they won a lot of games. They won more games than the Indians won. So good for Bob Melvin. You know, he's a baseball lifer, Bob Melvin, and good for him having that success this year in Atlanta. Both these guys are baseball lifers. That's what they are. They love baseball. It's their life. And for them to have success like this, I think is really good. And so I think they got it right in the Manager of the Year. Rookie of the Year last night, I think they got it right too. Shohei Ohtani won in the American League Rookie of the Year, and National League Ronald Acuna won, Atlanta Braves. So I think so far they've gotten the awards right. So now they'll start messing it up, you know. But we'll see. I still say that when they give the Cy Young out, I still say that Blake Snell needs to win it in the American League. I don't think Corey Kluber should win it again. And Justin Verlander had a great year, but I still think it should be Blake Snell. And then I think in the National League, it should be Jacob deGrom. I mean, the guy was great, and the Mets, just because the Mets were horrible doesn't mean he shouldn't win it. And look, we got two pitchers where their teams were not great, but they should win the Cy Young. There's no doubt about it. They should win the Cy Young. So I'm going to just say a little bit about the Browns right here. That I think it's not ironic, but I think it's great that Hue Jackson found work so quickly with the Bengals. And I don't think he's going back there just to give them the Browns playbook. Of course, I'm sure they're not going to ignore him if he tells them some things the Browns might do. But come on, Browns fans, stop. You know, everything's about you. The world revolves around you. Come on. The guy got a job. He likes Cincinnati. Cincinnati liked him before this. This is not about you. So stop doing your usual. Okay. Hue Jackson going to Cincinnati was just because because that's what he was going to do. Okay? That was the reason. And Cincinnati likes him. He's a friend of Marvin Lewis. Mike Brown likes him. So that's what happened. So quit whining and complaining. The world does not revolve around the Cleveland Browns. Is he going to help the Bengals with some Brown stuff? Yeah, but they're not going to fire him after they get done playing the Browns. He's probably going to be back there next year, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Marvin Lewis goes, if Hue Jackson's their next head coach, and he's successful. So stop making it about you. That's what you always do. That's what Browns fans always do. They always make it about themselves. And it's ridiculous. So now I think we should move on to the political portion of our show. And talk about some of the issues that are going on. And first we'll start with the fires in California and the horrible tweet that the president put out the other day, having no regard for human life and the human life that's being lost. All he cared about was making it a political issue. And that's unbelievable that he would do that, that he would make it a political issue. Firefighter, people losing their lives, and he makes it a political issue. Well, I guess if you want to make it a political issue, then we'll talk about it. There are firefighters risking their lives every day in California because of these horrible wildfires. And they are not the cause of liberal Democrats and their bad ideas. Okay, they're not. What they are caused by is careless people who cause forest fires. The same thing that's been happening for decades. Okay? Decades. It doesn't have anything to do with politics. Doesn't. These forest fires happen all over the place. It's because of many factors that come together to cause a forest fire. The president of the Pasadena Firefighters Association, Scott Austin, said that Trump was wrong about his tweet. I'm thinking Scott Austin, firefighter, president of the Pasadena Firefighters Association, may know a little more about what causes forest fires and how to fight forest fires than Donald Trump. He just might. Even though Donald Trump and his supporters believe that he knows absolutely everything, I'm thinking the firefighter might know more. That's just my thought. Now, I could be completely wrong on this, but I'm thinking the firefighter knows more. And, I think that for Trump not to apologize, which he never does, he never apologizes. I don't think we ought to ever expect him or any of his followers to apologize. That's what they see us. They see us liberals as weak because we apologize. Now, I don't think that's weak. I think apologizing is a good trait because if you understand that you're wrong sometimes, you usually get more respect. But of course, Trump supporters believe apologizing is a weakness. And they see less respect for you. They have less respect for you if you apologize. It's really sad. I mean, it really is. But I guess that's one of the ways we differ. So Trump was wrong about his tweet about the firefighters. Firefighters were offended by his tweet. Scott Austin was offended by his tweet. He said the tweet was demeaning and misinformed. And what Scott Austin suggests is that the president gets some education about this type of thing. That we all be educated about how these forest fires happen. You know, and he feels that would make for a better situation. So I think that, you know, he probably knows what he's talking about. So I think that it's a good thing that he came out and said that and put Trump in his place again. But of course, I'm sure Trump ignored it. And, you know, it doesn't matter to him. He's not going to worry about it because he has his own agenda and he doesn't care, you know, who he offends or what lies he tells. A very interesting thing since Election Day that I heard earlier today, too. Remember running up to the election in the last week, Trump was all about the caravan, you know, tweeting about it, talking about it at every rally, using fear of the caravan that's in Mexico, the caravan of migrants, and how dangerous they were and what a problem it was going to be. You know, he wasn't going to let them in. They're not coming in, you know, telling everybody and anybody because he's tough. And if you vote for my candidates, they won't get in. These murderers and rapists that he's saying that they are, you know, they won't get in. You know how many times he's tweeted about that caravan since the election in a week? One time. Because he doesn't have to use fear anymore. He doesn't have to use fear. He is so typical of Republicans. People say he's not a typical Republican. Yes, he's a typical Republican. Using fear and scaring people. That's what Donald Trump does. So, excuse me. That's where we are. I mean, he stopped tweeting about it because he accomplished his goal. He used fear to get certain Republicans elected, and now he doesn't have to tweet about it anymore. And how come they're not asking about it anymore? How come Trump supporters aren't bringing it up? You know what I mean? In a week, they won't even remember that the caravan existed. Because they really don't care about that kind of stuff. To them, it's about hate. It's not about anything else. It's about hate with them. The people coming through the caravan do not have white skin. There may be some, but I doubt it. They're pretty much all, you know, Hispanic. I would think. I have no facts here. Unlike Trump, who seems to have all the facts, even though he never does. But the majority of these people coming in are not white. That's why Trump supporters don't want them here. Let's be honest about it. They don't like anyone who isn't white. So that's why they don't want them here. Let's move on. The recounts have begun in Florida, and they must be done by Thursday at 3 o'clock. But of course, Rick Scott, the outgoing governor of Florida, who is leading at the time of the recount. He's the Republican candidate. He's leading for the Florida Senate seat against incumbent Bill Nelson. He's already gone to Washington. Or he's already booked his flight to Washington. He's going to go to Washington to some leadership conferences already. You know, the recount isn't even finished yet, but he's going anyway. Because what he is a pushy Republican who's going to force his way in, even if he doesn't belong yet. And he's probably hoping that if he does this, Bill Nelson will just concede and say, I'm going away, I didn't win. No, I don't think Bill Nelson's going away that easy. Will the recount end up going the way of the Democrats in either case? I don't know. But I do know that there's some shifty stuff going on down there in Florida, like there always is. And I don't trust the recounts, especially if they end at 3 o'clock on Thursday before everything's counted. How is that a fair recount? How is that a fair recount? If you're not done counting, but the count ends. I don't know how that's fair. So if they're doing the recount at that point, I'm wondering if they're doing the recount at that point and Nelson is ahead, will the Republicans still want it to end at 3 o'clock? Probably not. They'll probably want all of the votes counted then. Because after all, we know what they are. We know they're hypocrites. And we know that the only side they take is not the side of right. The only side they take is the side of Republican. They don't care about fair elections. They don't. They do not care about fair elections. They care about gerrymandering districts. They care about suppressing voters, and they do it. They can deny it all they want. They can try to say we're race baiting by bringing it up, but we're not. Excuse me. It's clear all the things they do. Blatant cases of it. Very clear cases of, suppressing voters. They do it. That's what they do in these southern states that are run by Republicans. That's why, to them, the thought of losing power in one of those states is horrific, because then they wouldn't be able to do it. And the truth would then come out, what was going on, and it would stop, and then they would even further lose their control. That's all we know it is. That's all we know it is about Republicans. It's all about power. It's not about doing the right thing. It's all about power. So that's what's going on there in Florida. Recounts. The senator race between Rick Scott and Bill Nelson, which was 14,848 votes separating the two when the recount began. Scott was ahead. He's the Republican. Nelson is the incumbent Democrat. So we'll see how that one goes. And then you have the governor's race, which the Republican Ron DeSantis is leading Democrat Andrew Gillum by 36,002 votes. And Gillum would be the first black governor in the history of Florida. If he were to win, and let's face it, the Southern Republicans can't stand for that to happen. That is their worst fear, to have African Americans in charge. We know how well they took it for 8 years when President Obama was in charge. They did everything they could to delegitimize his presidency. They did everything they could to obstruct him. Of course, now they deny they did, which is even more pathetic. But we know what they did. We know what they did for 8 years with Obama as president. And we know what they'll do, if a African American would be the governor of Florida. It would be horrible for them. They would do everything to obstruct him. They would do everything to get him out of office from the day he got elected until he was gone. Just like they tried to do with Obama on a national level. I mean, there's certain places that, that are more racist than others, and I believe Florida is one of them. I mean, when you're in the South, it gets pretty bad down there, from what I understand. I've never lived in the South, so I don't know, but I've talked to people who've lived down there. I've talked to white and African American people that live down there, and they pretty much all agree that racism is still alive in the South, big time. And don't tell me that there's not voter suppression. There is. There's voter suppression. We all know there is. It's been going on for decades. It didn't just start. This isn't something that the Trump Republicans came up with. No. This has been going on for a long time. And I think that, it needs to be exposed for what it is. And when you expose something, so many times you're called hateful because you're exposing something. There's many walks of life where people say I'm hateful because I expose the truth. I expose the truth about people when they do hateful things and say hateful things. And so, that Tim Shirer, he's such a hateful person. Why? Because I tell the truth? Because I expose people for the horrible fakes and two-faced people they are? That's what I do. It is. Somebody has to do it. There's too many people that'll talk behind the scenes, and then when it comes right down to it, they keep their mouth shut. Don't do anything about it. That drives me crazy. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to be honest, politically and about sports. People get mad at me because I express my opinion about the Browns. You're not a Browns fan. You're not a real Clevelander because you say terrible things about the Browns. Well, what about the people that say terrible things about the Indians? That's okay? Or the people that, like Jim Donovan tonight on sports, on Channel 3, was talking horrible about the Cavs, saying what would be more interesting to watch, the 7 o'clock broadcast or the Cavs. Would he ever say that about the Browns? No, he wouldn't. But it's okay to say it about the Cavs and Indians in Cleveland. It's ridiculous. But that's what I am. I'm truthful. I tell the truth about stuff. And people don't like it. People don't seem to like the truth nowadays. But I'm going to be here to tell the truth. I'm going to be here to tell the truth. Every night, 5 nights a week on the Lake County Sentinel podcast. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, an hour. Tuesday and Thursday, a half hour. That's 4 hours a week of truth. Honest truth. So that's how it is. Looks like we're out of time for today. Tomorrow night we have a special guest, Justin Latta, Indians expert, former Sentinel writer, currently for Indians Baseball Insider. He'll be with us. So I hope you'll join us tomorrow night when Justin is in studio as a guest. Have a good night, everybody. Until tomorrow, I'm Tim Shirer.